Greetings, geeks. Welcome to episode 816 of Geeks in Space. I'm Rob Commander Taco Maldo, and I am joined today in pretend low Earth orbit by Rob Roseboom.
Hello.
Chris DeBona.
Hi.
Gentlemen.
I'm wearing my Nostromo shirt.
Yeah, you're representing.
Yeah.
You got your show your alien. I'm wearing I'm wearing a Zardoz shirt.
Wow.
But it's Zardoz with Jason Mantzoukas from the episode of How Did This Get Made, which
I did not see that one.
Yes.
Great,
have you seen Zardoz though, right?
It's been literally decades, but yes.
That's probably the right amount of time to put between you and Zardoz.
Yeah. You only need to watch the very first part where the flying head vomits guns. And then the rest you can skip.
I don't know. Isn't there a scene like kind of towards the end where like they're floating around in inflatable balls inside of like an old Irish farming estate?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Again, you only need to watch the beginning where the giant head throws up guns, and then the rest you can skip.
All right. I really like the fashion of that movie, the costume design. I think it's pretty stellar.
You know, here's my there's a parallel world where the sequel that's being made is to Zardoz instead of to our treasured past Spinal Tap.
That's true. So your head one item. This is Rob Reiner confirming. No, it's all right. It's a good transition. I'm just keeping myself lined up. Rob Reiner has confirmed they're going to be shooting Spinal Tap in February.
Filming in February.
And everybody's on board, which is really actually kind of interesting because I know that movie in particular is one that gets cited regularly when they talk about royalties, residuals being paid to the actors, because that movie famously has never made any money, even though it's been out since the 80s. And like, I've bought it like on DVD and on Blu-ray, over the years.
I mean, my very first year at MSU, this was so MSU at that time had their own cable channel that you could watch, and this was, they would have like 3 or 4 movies every week, and this was
That's great.
A movie the first week, and then was a movie like 4 or 5 additional weeks because people kept asking for it. So.
Hey, could we have Spinal Tap again?
Yeah.
Now we have a friend who thought that this band was real.
Really?
You do?
Yes, we do.
I can't wait to find out.
Yeah, like we have a real friend who thought this was a real band and a real thing, and this was a real documentary throughout high school.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, when I tell you who it is after the chat, and you ask him, he'll deny it, but it's not true. He absolutely thought this was real. That I rewatched Spinal Tap like maybe a month ago because a family member of mine wanted to see it and hadn't seen it in a while, and that movie holds up, man. If anything, it's kind of a little stronger now. Like in recent times, it feels funnier. Like all the jokes still are working. A lot of those movies don't make it, but this one, and like maybe Best in Show.
That's another really good one.
2 of my favorites. So we've got a picture of an artist's rendering of what could be humanity's first permanent lunar base, and it's the most boring looking thing.
Honestly, it looks awful.
Yeah.
I'm like, you couldn't give him one more can,
Yeah, I mean, so it's a burn barrel with some solar panels on it,
right?
I mean, we can't even get a shipping crate up
make
there.
These in their backyards,
Yeah. It like, so what's new this season For All Mankind? You remember the first season of For All Mankind
was good.
Was trying to be like this kind of level of technology, and if we made a moon base in 1976 or whatever, that's what it would have looked like. That's sad.
I mean, there's not even any sponsorship marketing on this. It's a huge waste, Do you know how much a company would probably pay to have like a little panel?
Well, ASI,
ISI.
apparently ISI. That's the
ISI?
Italian space agency.
Yeah, it's the Italians.
I don't know. I'm just saying they should have hired like a designer or something. Like say what you will about Elno, the Cybertruck clearly had a designer. Now, not a smart designer, but
A
they had
stone
one.
designer.
Yeah, they had one. Like it was part of the decision was to make it look different. This was, what if we took the label off a Campbell's soup can and tipped it over? And there ain't no way it's going to be that shiny. Regolith is
I
sticky.
mean, during Lunar Day, which is very long, you'll want it to be pretty reflective. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also, why are we talking about this when the moon is clearly a hoax?
That's true.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just hanging up there by a rope.
All
right. We've got the Fallout TV
there's a thing that
series.
probably won't happen.
Yeah,
but
this is not going to happen. I mean, the Fallout TV series. There's actually a picture of a lady in a Fallout looking
and Kyle
jumpsuit.
McLaughlin's the overseer in her vault.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The shots of this looked good to me.
Yeah.
I was sort of
Yeah.
impressed by how they put it together. So
Like he's got his Pip Boy on.
Yeah, it looks right.
And it's Vault 53, I guess, or 33. Yeah.
Mm.
So not one we've seen before, apparently.
No, well, I respect the production design.
We got our power armor.
Yeah.
Brother Steel, baby.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Gonna go
and
to
then
what?
there's
To
a
Libertyville and the
yeah,
thing.
it's Philadelphia, basically, right?
Which is the one that had like the DC metro stations? That was always weird.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was Fallout 3.
It was 3, yeah.
Yeah.
That was 3 proper.
Apparently the at the time their office was like a few blocks away from my house.
Oh wow.
And I always kind of wished that I would have had a way to get into that door.
Yeah, right.
Well, anyway,
When you lived in the nation's capital,
or at least right outside of it.
Okay.
I was in Bethesda, technically.
Bethesda.
No, it looks really cool.
I'm wondering what human mountain they used to.
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
You know? Like, or is this guy just super short? Like
probably a little both. Maybe some forced perspective.
I bet you this is the same Joel guy, who's in everything.
The creators of this one are the Westworld team.
Yeah, that's right. Nolan and what's her
Joy? Is it Joy Nolan or Joy something?
No, it's Lisa Joy and
Lisa Joy.
Jonathan Nolan.
John Nolan. All right.
It's funny. I know this is Philadelphia, but this looks a lot like Megaton. You know, but
no, I'll definitely be watching the first few episodes of it. We'll see if it is anything. The Halo show was so bad.
It was so bad.
I only watched the first episode of that. That was just unwatchable. But we did have the what was it? The Together show, the zombie girl Left Behind. One of Us. Jesus. Last of Us. Ellie and Joel. That was great. But
it was okay.
We don't have a lot of good role models for video game adaptation to popular media.
What about Mortal Kombat?
Or Double Dragon?
Oh. Or Street Fighter.
All of these are winners, and I've seen and loved all of them. No.
Or when they adapted Tempest.
The spinning game?
Yeah, no, they never adapted.
Yeah, and Minesweeper.
Oh.
Well, really, isn't that just, any number?
I mean, World War II we go back to Battleship.
Solitaire.
So, I have a soft spot for Battleship.
Yeah, you're broken.
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly broken.
I need to make my Chiron that says Chris has bad taste in movies.
I mean, there are times when I have bad taste in movies.
Here's the thing. That movie has such a low bar walking into it.
Yeah.
That how could it not clear that bar easily?
Right.
Yeah, right.
It's not a bad sci-fi premise. It's just the end where you're like, oh, this is what you took from Battleship and paid the money so you wouldn't get sued. I'm not sure anyone would have noticed. But
Well, I
maybe.
mean, the only things they kept from the game were the grid
Yeah, the grid at
and
the end.
and 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 eagle-eyed viewers would notice the shape of the projectiles from the aliens were the pegs from the game.
At one point in the movie, did not one of the characters say, "You sank my
Sank.
battleship"?
Probably, but it's so lost in a terrible movie that
Yeah.
you don't even notice it. But there's some great things about that movie, like when they bring in the old guys and that
I've
was
Yeah.
blocked
good.
it all out.
And it was so good.
It's bad.
And then there's so much dumb stuff though. You know, you're like, for everything you like, you're like, but then they did this. You're
Yep,
like,
they did. Cold open for Letterkenny season 12, final season, coming out on
yeah,
Crave in December.
Allegedly.
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 I'm not
Allegedly.
wearing my Letterkenny shirt today. I'm wearing Zardoz
yeah.
today.
I think my Letterkenny shirt kind of wore out. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it in a while.
The cold open's fine. But man, there's some really good seasons of Letterkenny. It does seem like they've transferred their creative brain trust over to Shoresy and I want to live there for a few years.
Yeah.
But after 12 seasons, they had a great run. That is definitely a writer's show. The writer has a lot of fun. Whoever's, I don't know if it's the director and Kelso, whatever this guy's name.
Kelso, yeah. This guy.
Yeah. They got something going on, man. And the opening, this cold open is another one of those things where all the references are like the alphabet in order. A very cleverly written thing, but it's not as tight as some of the other ones. But I think it's more meant to show you the full cast.
Okay.
But Letterkenny, it's cribbing out Christmas. On Crave anyway. On Hulu it'll come out later because they do that for some reason. Thanks, internet. The U.S. is going to go back to the moon. This is different than the Italian Space Agency story. This is just that we're going to try to land a craft there, the Peregrine. It'll happen, sure, totally.
Haven't we already been there?
We did that. It was fine.
Sorry. I don't mean to sound negative on space.
We got some regolith. It's cool. We can just keep it. I got to use the word regolith 3 times now in this episode. It's pretty good.
That's great. I'm very happy for you.
Right. Chris, you shared this story about the Collings Foundation grounding World War II aircrafts.
Yeah.
This
okay.
is
So what's been
scary.
going on? Right. So the Evergreen Aviation Museum in McMinnville, Oregon is fantastic. That's where I saw the spruce goose. But what I don't know if I told you, but they had built this insane Evergreen water park, an insane water park on the same site, right? And they actually have a 747 on top of the water park and a helicopter inside it, and it's kind of nuts, right? They spent a lot of money on the water park, and the way they guaranteed the loan on the water park was their collection of heritage aircraft. You see where I'm going with this? And so the heritage aircraft ended up being claimed because it couldn't pay back the water park loan. And so that ended up going into the Collins Foundation Heritage Air Force. And so they would fly these around to various air shows, and they would give people rides in these old bombers and stuff. And it turns out that
70-year-old airplanes aren't
70-year-old airplanes that were built, in record time to attack the Germans and stuff. It turns out they're not the most airworthy of aircraft, and most of the people behind it, flying them, building them, maintaining them, they're all dead. So they've had some crashes, and so they decided they're going to ground the fleet. And one last flight of their B-17, B-25, B-24, and P-51. They're gonna stick them in a museum. In Massachusetts.
The article
Although they misspelled Massachusetts in the article, which is very disturbing.
There was a number of things about that, like the prices that people were paying for the flights, and they were like 20-minute flights, and they were doing 2 of them an hour, like at air shows.
Yeah.
And that was a little scary. So what, $2,200 for 30 minutes in the back seat of a P-51. Now,
it's pretty cool. I have
to be
those
clear,
prices are not out of hand.
They are not out of hand.
They also are not enough to maintain those planes. you know.
Yeah, well, but the thing that I thought was kind of crazy is that they were doing 30-minute flights. They were doing 2 an hour, and they were doing many a day. That's not great for a 70-year-old plane.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So anyway,
I mean, it's not that we made them to be disposable, but the assumption was that
70
any bomber
years.
we made was gonna be, if it made it to what, 8 sorties, we considered it a win. So
I mean, be realistic. Is there anything in your house that's technically complex that was built in the 40s?
That's a good question. We
Yeah.
have some equipment that was made back then.
My house was built in like 58.
I think we have a kiln.
My house was built in like 58, and I don't think I have anything complex. Like I might have some like heirlooms and some objects, but nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing like as
you don't have like a 50-year-old Bluetooth headset that you're counting on?
I don't even have like a 50-year-old toaster. You know what I mean?
I think Zen here has a pair of headphones that he hasn't charged since then. So.
I've charged once since I had them over a year.
Those are good headphones.
Well done.
All right, we got a short one that I just wanted to say a little thing. Turbo Pascal is celebrating turning 40. Turbo Pascal was, of course, my first real programming language. I learned BASIC first, like every normal kid did in the 80s. But I got that Turbo Pascal IDE with the integrated debugger, and it had like an object-oriented windowing system, and I wrote BBS games in like 1988, 89 on a 286. And that was like my formative years.
You wrote your doors.
I wrote my doors. I wrote World War IV BBS compatible doors.
Sure.
And some of our friends probably even played them, but they were very nice to play them and then quit because they were horrible games. I didn't understand how memory management worked. And so because however I was building these apps, they only had like 64K of working memory because of the 286 architecture. And I just remember when I got to a certain point and would run out of memory, I would just run a different exe file, and my game split up into 2 exe files. So halfway through, it would just run a different executable, and that was where you went to the second half of the game. And that's fine. I didn't know what I was doing. I was 12. Anyway, Turbo Pascal, man, my favorite. I still have a fondness for it. And the comments in this article were noting syntax errors in the examples, which I thought was pretty funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. What kills me about Turbo Pascal, it really did change how people approach languages. Up until then, it was all command line and wacky stuff. And so you got quick basic after this, quick C, but the main function of Turbo Pascal for me was driving me into the loving arms of C. Because I hated Pascal so much.
That's fair.
The way you had to declare things at the top of the file at the time, it was just like
the IDE. I mean, it was a text mode windowing interface. In an era where Windows, I mean, like I was using this before I think Windows 3.0, and I used Windows 2. But Windows, I don't even remember if Windows 2 was a truly windowing interface. I think it was a tiling interface.
Well, there was Windows 286, and then there was
I used that. I had that. It was one of the very few things on my computer that could run at 640 by 480 at the time, because I had a VGA card in that computer, and when you got to pop that computer into 640 480 and see those pixels that were so tiny, I thought it was the bomb. But for me, the IDE was the thing. Like you had an integrated debugger, you had, the interface so you could have multiple windows open, like editing editing 2 different files at the same time. And you could use a mouse. Fancy, man. Super fancy. We have the trailer for the Furiosa movie, which apparently is coming out next summer. And it stars Queen's Gambit.
Queen's Gambit. Oh, that's right.
Or the Vitch, depending.
She was in the last one, right? As one of the
I don't
The
think so.
Wives of the Imperator.
I don't think so.
No?
There's a girl who kind of looked like her
Road. Cast.
because
It's gonna bug
she's
me.
like young Furiosa, not
Oh, okay.
so that wouldn't logically work
Yeah,
out.
she wasn't in there. You're right.
There's a large-eyed girl. One of the wives, I think, was you know, similar, I suppose. The trailer looks good. I'm all in, but I have a very warm place in my heart for that Mad Max movie. It's really, really,
Mhm.
really, really good. Now it ain't no
I'm looking forward to it.
it ain't no Beyond Thunderdome, but
Or the Road Warrior, for that matter.
that's true. That's true. I heard a funny little thing about the creator. I mentioned that on the last stream, but the director of that, Gareth Edwards, was also the director of Rogue One. And he was talking about how the way that they made that movie so cheap was they relied very much on existing location shooting. And he saw pictures of a super collider. And it's like, that looks great. That looks awesome. That looks like it could be like the AI lab in my movie. You know, if you put some scientists in there, whatever, and it looks like the AI lab. So he goes there, like ostensibly as on a location scout. And everybody's like, you can't film here. It's a super collider. This is like a working scientific research center. And he goes there, and apparently a bunch of the scientists are like, who's that guy? And like, he's some film director. And it's like, what did he direct? And they're like, he directed a Star Wars. And they were like, you can film here. Can we be in your movie? So apparently when you see the scientists in the lab coats in the third act scene, that's a real super collider. And those are the real scientists that work there. And that let them film there for like where you would not be allowed to normally film.
That's cool.
I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Take that, science.
Yeah.
Pain wins again.
That's right.
Hollywood asserts itself.
That's right. And do we have any other media? Oh, I finished. I think I'm caught up on Monarch. Rob, have you been
I haven't
watching?
even started. I want to start it though.
Haven't even started.
You know, I gotta tell you, man, I just finished episode 3, and now I'm finally like, it's slow moving. But episode 3 finally got me where I needed to be for what I want from this kind of movie. My biggest struggle with it is a dumb one, which is it turns out that Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell's characters are 60 years apart in the timeline, and in order for that to work, that makes Kurt Russell have to be like 90, 95 years old.
That would make sense.
No, they brush it off as a joke, so I'm sure maybe they'll explain it with some hand wavy thing. I mean, they work for Monarch, right? So they would have access to secret technology. For all we know, Monarch could have time travel. There could be like a multiverse of monsters.
Well, you
Well,
know, who
Hollow
knows?
Earth, you know.
Yeah, who knows what happens to you when you're exposed to the hollow earth radiation that long?
Yeah, you might age backwards.
And they have special gravity too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the physics could be all different down there. But no, it's worth watching. I'm through the 3rd episode now, and it's like now there finally have been enough monsters that they don't show you enough monsters is ultimately my problem with the show. I need more monsters. If you're going to make a monster movie based in the Godzilla universe, then you need to have like 3 monster attacks per hour of entertainment. That's the Rob ratio.
Excuse me.
All right. Is there anything else that we have on our list, gentlemen? That's a
Raspberry Pi 5 is out. That's pretty fun.
It's got a PCIe adapter, and Jeff Geerling had a video where he had it plugged into a GPU. He had it running off like
that's wacky.
Yeah, like that.
But I mean, you know, it's what 8 cores, 4 cores running at 2.4 gigahertz. I mean, that's.
And if you're letting all the graphics run off the GPU, you know, and it's not.
You could run Grand Theft Auto on that thing. Yeah. So, well.
Grand Theft Auto 5, man, that'll run on anything in 2023.
Yeah. 29 watts or whatever. I mean, that's incredible. So, well, I mean, he had to have a separate power supply for the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's convenient, but it's cool. I've been actually working on. I've been building a new Mr. FPGA emulator box, and so I think my next project for the day is to find Amiga Kickstart ROMs. And get an Amiga simulator working on it, the Amiga emulator working on it, for no reason at all. Like I have no, like I never used an Amiga as a kid. I have no nostalgia towards it. I got the 286 thing working on it again and played Space Quest 3 for a little while yesterday. Because that's good times. But I don't have really any Amiga fondness. But darn it, I want to get Workbench up and running.
Okay.
That's how I roll.
I support you.
All right. Then I think it's time to say goodbye. Unless there's got to be a movie coming out this weekend. Is there anything happening?
And maybe.
Do movies still happen?
Oh, Godzilla -1 is coming out this weekend too.
True.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I want to see that.
I've read that it is more in the vein of the original Godzilla.
Yeah. It's getting positive reviews. Oh, I mentioned this last time, but did either of you watch the new Doctor Who?
Nah.
No.
Are either of you going to watch the new Doctor Who, or are you out?
Nah.
Absolutely not. No.
Fair enough.
No,
Then I shall never mention it again. I enjoyed it a lot.
No, I mean, it's like, did you watch it?
I watched the first episode and
Listen,
I enjoyed it.
You know how I feel about Dawn of Noble. Like,
Yep,
it was perfect. It was perfect ending. Let's not screw it up. And instead, they're like, well, how about we screw up the Dawn of Noble ending and the David Tennant ending? It's like,
yep, that's what you do now. That's what you do now. You can't let anything stay dead.
Let it die.
That's right.
Let the Daleks die. Let the Cybermen die. Go on to the next Doctor. Have new adventures, new things.
I agree.
Don't screw up the past.
That's not how this works anymore. We can only bank on pre-existing intellectual property because now all of our bets have to be like $100 million bets, and you can't risk it with new intellectual property. That's why The Creator was cool. It was new. There was like a new world, and it was only $80 million, which is still a lot of money, but cheap for a blockbuster. Now I don't think they'll get a sequel or anything out of it. It didn't make any money, but it was still awesome to see a new world. Anyway, goodbye, Rob Roseboom.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Chris DeBona.
See ya.
That was episode 816 of Geeks in Space. I was Rob, Commander Tacomaldo. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.